Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'm discussing my thoughts on episode 3 of the Doctor Who spin-off series Class, entitled Nightvisiting. And this was a hella interesting episode, I thought. Really loved seeing the character of Tanya coming to the fore in the loss of her father. It's the anniversary of her father's untimely death due to stroke, and she's still very much carrying around that baggage. She's still very much, feeling the guilt and the remorse and the mourning and all that kind of stuff of his just being stolen away in the middle of the night and never getting a chance to say goodbye, and all these different things that you go through with loss. And she is suddenly confronted with the physical manifestation of her father as a stemming off of this fungal being, that's very empathic. It can read her thoughts and her feelings up until a certain point, the rest of which will eventually be its downfall, its undoing by the end of the episode, because of how an emotional torrent it is, how much weight it carries within Tanya, And I absolutely was fascinated by this creature, the Lankin, as it's called, which it's kind of like a soul vampire in a way. It kind of reminded me of shades of Star Trek Enterprise, a particular episode I loved from that series called Vox Sola, which saw this very sort of fungal alien creature aboard the Enterprise ship, and the crew had to sort of manufacture a way to communicate with it, had to understand its language, which was mathematical, but it could sort of try to tap into the human psyche through emotions and everything, and a lot of people got caught up in it and were sucked up into it in a similar fashion as you see the Lankin in this episode, which it very much, it has that vampiric quality where it has to sort of bend you to its will. It can't just take you outright. It can't just forcibly take you. You have to bend to its will. You have to be okay with it and sort of go to it with open arms for it to be able to succeed, and basically sucking your soul and gaining its own energy, its own life force, empowering that life force off of you and everything like that. And we see that Tanya is not the only one confronted with, basically people they were familiar with in the past. Of course, you have Ram being confronted with the manifestation of his girlfriend, who he saw brutally murdered at the hands of the Shadowkin in episode 1. You have Charlie just barely perceiving, maybe seeing his parents, but the bond there wasn't strong enough. And sort of the second biggest in the entire episode is Miss Quill, who sees her sister as part of the Quill. They had a rivalry, and there's shades of Leela from Doctor Who history in the description of how they're all sort of women warriors and sister fighting sister and all this kind of stuff. And Quill, for her part, is not succumbing to it. Neither is Tanya. These are two really empowered women who have come into their own and come into the understanding of their own thoughts and feelings and emotions. And both of them see this sort of, if you'll pardon the language, shit show for what it is. They know that it's too good to be true. There's something more going on, and very much, whereas Quill is just wasting time, trying to get this creature to reveal all and, cop to its chameleon-like presence and all this kind of stuff. Just biding her time for Charlie and his boyfriend Matthias, who is apparently moved in with them now because his family, his father disdained the fact that he was gay and everything like that. But she was very much waiting for, Charlie and Matthias to call and to walk in on this conversation she's having, trying to bait all the information out of this, air quotes, sister, this offshoot of the Lankin creature. And whereas Tanya was very much dealing with a lot of this by herself. She saw that her brothers and her mother, or at least her mother, I don't know if the brothers are still living there, but at least the mother was succumbed to this Lankin creature and everything like that. And Tanya was very much parsing this all on her own. She did not know at any time that April and Ram would team up and try to get to her house, that they would call Charlie, Matthias, and Miss Quill for help and all this kind of stuff. She really held her own against this creature, and I think it was there was some level of catharsis, I want to say, because she was able to really get out a lot of the emotions, a lot of the baggage. She was able to say goodbye in a manner of speaking, while also calling this Lankin creature, who took the embodiment, the form of her father, calling it on the spot, "You're a fake, you're a phony, you're a fraud, and I won't be having any part of that," And I really loved that. It made me want to do a fist pump when she finally pushed into it all of that anger and all of that rage, which really depleted its energy and everything like that. It did not completely dead-legged. It took Miss Quill finding a double-decker bus and ramming it through the main sort of, limb of this Lankan creature to finally send it packing. But Tanya very much, ushered it a very strong blow. And I loved that. I have to admit, though, certain reservations. I could have done without the sex scene, much as I could have done without the bare naked ass of the coach in episode 2. Everything like that. I can take or leave some of that stuff. I don't feel like it's absolutely necessary. I feel like a lot of the time spent with Charlie and Matthias in bed, just talking about how much they mean to each other, that was heartfelt and that was poignant. And I really thought that was leaps and bounds beyond needing to actually, see them getting it on and everything like that. Even though it was relatively brief, the love and the compassion between them is what really spoke to me more than actually seeing the physical manifestation of that. Going alongside with the physical manifestations of so many lost souls trying to, make humanity succumb and wipe humanity out, try to, survive off of humanity's energy, its thoughts, its feelings, its emotions, all this kind of stuff. And the one sort of chief qualm I have is that we saw Ram and April kiss. And I was really kind of hoping, especially throughout the course of the first and second episodes of Class, that we would see a dynamic evolving along those lines between Ram and Tanya. Not so much Ram and April. That just kind of came out of nowhere, and it looks like, as we're looking at the preview for the next episode, which seems like it's going to call back on the Shadowkin heart tie that April is suffering. It looks like she's going to go psycho, but it looks like we're also going to see more going on between Ram and April. And again, I just felt like there was a much closer kinship between him and Tanya in the first couple episodes, and this just kind of came out of left field. He's just witnessed the physical manifestation of his dead girlfriend, and minutes later they kiss, which brings me to, of course, April's back history. It kind of plays a little along the speculations that I put forth in my episode 2 discussion video about why her father might have strayed away, might have left the family. I had thought that maybe it was something along the lines of his leaving the family because the mother had an accident which saw her become paralyzed. Lo and behold, the mind-bending reality of the scenario that he began to be a drunkard, he began to be suicidal, and he purposely drove off a highway while the wife and the daughter were in the vehicle as a suicide attempt, a murder-suicide attempt, which saw him go to prison. I don't know whether he's out now or not. We saw him trying to call April in the previous episode, and she ignored the call. But man, that is one hell of a messed up family. Jesus. It's no frickin' wonder she wants nothing to do with him. And I don't know if that was her father we see sort of accosting her in the preview for the next episode while she's in a car, or not. I really don't know, but that is messed up. Something like that's nth degree messed up. The father just begins swilling the alcohol, begins losing his mind, begins to get suicidal because God knows why. And tries to destroy the lives of not only himself, but his wife and daughter. Oh, man. And this is what, tragically causes April's mother to be in a wheelchair, to be disabled. And she has to, there's so much of her life now that she's going to have to sort of reserve for helping and assisting her mother. It's just insane. And we see that she is somewhat of a prodigy. She can play various instruments from the violin to the keyboard. She's very much into folk music, which was something her father was into. He was a folk musician, and it's just there's so much going on in the lives of these main characters, Tanya, April, Ram, Charlie, Matthias, Miss Quill, and all that kind of stuff. But there's also stuff going on surrounding them. I love a lot of the family dynamics. I love by the end of this episode, did we see a much more down-to-earth equivalent of Tanya's mother, for example, where I said she was very much hard as nails and a workhorse, and you're going to study, you're not going out, you're not having fun, you're not having friends or a boyfriend and all this kind of stuff, bringing down the hardship on Tanya. But we see them very much coming together by the end of this episode in missing the father, Jasper. it was just really heartening to me. And I love the really fleshed out characterization going on in this series. It's something I will bang on and on and on about through episodes 1 and 2, the discussion videos I've put up. I think I've touched upon it several times, but I really love the familial characterization and the individual characterization of all of these characters. And I thought it was absolutely hilarious that by the end, all the kids come together and Quill is like, oh, I'm gonna vomit. Like, when they're all gung-ho, they're all like sharing their war stories about what they just experienced, and she just can't stand it. It's like the Wonder Kids, and Batman's over here, I'm going back to the Batcave. So, I mean, another great episode. I'm really intrigued by the next one to see just what limits April is taken to in both her relationship, her impromptu relationship with Ram. As much as I'm not thrilled with it, who knows if it'll even last. It could be a rebound thing just in the heat of the moment. And yeah, I can't wait to see more of the growth and opportunity these characters will experience as the series continues on. And so yeah, otherwise it'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.